Nothing in this recording is intended as investment advice, and the people in this recording may hold positions in the companies they talk about. Do not make any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to Zach's Traders Cafe. Today I'm joined by Howard White as chairman at Hydrogen Utopia. How are you today, Howard?
I'm wonderful. The sun's out. What else can I say?
Right, lots going on at Hydrogen Utopia, and I think maybe probably the message at the moment is, for at least from some in the market, what exactly are you wishing for? What are we waiting for, etc.
Well, I'm going to go back a little while. I'm going to go back to 2006 when I bought the technology for AFC Energy, and then I IPO'd it in 2007. And in 2008, when we were trying to do a project with John Lewis, we tried to get hold of hydrogen, and we were going to get a captive steam methane reformer from, I think it was Air Products or BOC. And the price of the hydrogen was £5 a kilo. And converting that through a fuel cell into electricity was going to make each kilowatt hour 25 pence of hydrogen cost, which made it completely non-viable. So at that point, I started a company called Waste-Tricity, and that was to look for low-cost hydrogen. And I've spent the ensuing years through various guises of Waste-Tricity, and then through Powerhouse Energy, and then latterly Hydrogen Utopia, and finally ended up with a technology called Inantech, which is the one that we have the exclusive rights to enter into into contracts with in the MENA, and particularly the Gulf Cooperation Corporation companies, which primarily are Saudi Arabia and UAE and Oman. And what Inantech has given me after these 18 long years is the ability to produce hydrogen from plastic waste and other wastes at $2 a kilo. And $2 a kilo is the key number to make hydrogen a viable proposition in large-scale industry, and in particular in the steel industry, using an existing method called DRI, which is direct reduction iron. And this is currently using natural gas, and the natural gas is costing a ton of steel in Saudi Arabia $20 a ton, and to replace it with hydrogen at $2 a kilo would cost $120, so a net $100 increase per ton. But this would then have low carbon steel being produced, and low carbon steel being sold, for example, into Europe, would no longer be liable for the CBAM, which is the CO2 import tax, which is currently at about 160 euros a ton. So in fact, the low carbon steel coming in from Saudi Arabia would be less expensive than grey steel in Europe. And not only that, but of course, one of the major requirements of the Vision 2030 of Saudi Arabia is that they reduce the carbon footprint of building materials. And this is the one process, $2 a kilo for hydrogen, that will make it viable for construction companies to pay that little extra, because at $3, $4, it's no longer viable. It puts a huge amount of money on the cost of steel and makes building not viable. But the golden target here is $2 a kilo, and that we can achieve. In fact, we can go lower, but let's stick at $2. And the whole idea with Inantec is that we will use a number of their systems. We will capture the CO2 and use it in Saudi Arabia for it's food grade CO2, so it can be used in the food industry, and it can be used for EOR, which is extended oil recovery, which is also very big, as you can imagine, in Saudi Arabia, as they are a major oil producer. So I believe that having now received MISA, which I don't really think people have understood what MISA is. You know, it's very quick to get it, but to actually get to the point of getting it, you need a lot of contacts, and we have those contacts. We have the right people working for us who have significant contacts and knowledge in Saudi Arabia, and that was why we were able to get it so quickly. And it means that the Saudi government, which at MISA is a government organization, have approved our technology for use in Saudi Arabia, that we now as a company can start an office, we can transact in Saudi Arabia. And before we got MISA, nobody could actually do a transaction with us. Now that we have it, we can transact. And there are a number of opportunities that are quite far down the line, which will give us authorizations and exposure, most importantly, to the very top echelons in the Saudi government, and also the expectation of short-term revenue for projects that we are in discussion.
So you finally got your reached promised land in terms of the your cheap hydrogen. You've got many of the badges you need to work in to be in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as well. You've got all the validation there. Just waiting for a deal.
And I expect that to occur fairly quickly, but the ultimate goal is to attract the steel companies. And the interesting thing about steel companies is this DRI process, the MIDEX process, is the current modern way of converting iron ore into into the first stage of the did I say direct? Yes, it's direct reduced iron, not direct reduced steel. Sorry, into the first stage of producing iron, which then goes on to make steel. And this process is in almost all of the Middle East countries that have built their steel plants in the last 10, 20 years. If you look at the UK, there isn't a single DRI process that I can identify. And all the other processes are the types that cannot easily convert from the current energy sources to hydrogen, whereas DRI is a simple replacement of the feed of natural gas. You can add hydrogen to the natural gas, or you can eliminate the natural gas entirely.
But is this one of those situations where you get your deal and you have a transformational effect for Hydrogen Utopia and the shareholders, and then from that initial deal, then others will follow, and the momentum will keep building?
Right. The initial deal with a steel company would have to be At the low end, it would be a $500 million deal, and the opportunity would run into several billions of dollars to produce the quantity of hydrogen required. And this $2 a kilo hydrogen is at 20,000 tons a year plus of hydrogen production. It's not something that you can produce at small scale. This is very large scale. And if it works in Saudi Arabia, I would no doubt that the other countries who all have the DRI process would follow.
And so basically, we're playing the waiting game, but you've done after many years of effort, you're finally where you want to be.
Absolutely. I'm surprised that the market hasn't understood exactly where hydrogen utopia is now. It's I think we put the message out sufficiently. It is not being comprehended. I would also like to say that, in finding the golden goose, I must acknowledge my CEO, Alexandra Pinkowska, who identified the Inantech technology through transactions that she pursued that I would never have followed up on. And I must say that without her involvement, we would not be in the position we are. Currently, we also are in a relaxed position on funding, as we have sufficient monies to take us well into next year, and we would expect to be receiving revenue well before then.
Howard White, Chairman at Hydrogen Utopia, thank you very much indeed.